My name's Joe, and today I want to give you a look at the new Neca San Diego Comic-Con 2017 exclusive 30th anniversary cartoon series Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles box set. Now, this turtle set is limited to 5,000 pieces. It's being sold over the weekend at San Diego Comic-Con if you're in attendance. For those who aren't able to make it to San Diego Comic-Con, Neca sold this on their website over the course of 3 days. They sold an unspecified amount starting at noon each day for 3 days, and it sold out within 1 or 2 minutes, I think, each day. So it was totally bossa nova that I was able to pick up one of these sets. It finally showed up a few days ago, and I decided to do a video review for you guys. So let's get started. Turtle power, dudes! Reaganomics! So if you've ever seen any of my other figure reviews, you know I don't waste a lot of time talking about the boxes and the packaging that figures come in. I find that pretty uninteresting. When I'm watching a video review of a figure on YouTube, for instance, I couldn't care less about things like the warning label and shit like that. So this is a little bit different. This is meant to replicate the collector cases that you might have had for your figures when you were a kid. I know I had one that was similar to this for my Ninja Turtles. I had something like this for my Batman animated series figures also. It's basically like cardboard sides, but then it's wrapped in vinyl, and it has images of the characters on each side. I think the box art is a little strange on this, kind of confusing to me. It's a more modern Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles logo, whereas the cartoon series that these figures are based on had a different logo, with the ends of the banner here were tapered off, and where it said Turtles, it was actually curved around like that. It was a little more stylized, and that was the logo that you always saw for the cartoon series, and you know, all the merchandise that was attached to it. Also, the Turtles don't look anything like they did in the cartoon either. I think that's a little weird. Alright, so this box has a little plastic handle on the top, just like the old ones used to. It has metal clasps on the side and some foot soldier artwork on the side there, and on the back it's got Krang and the Shredder. So the artwork on this box is done by a comic book illustrator named Ken Mitroni, and I guess he's worked on some version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics at one point, and I'm not too impressed by it. I can draw better turtles than this guy. I guess the background is supposed to be San Diego Comic-Con. Alright, so this case unhooks from the sides, swings open like this, and there's 2 trays in here for all the figures and their accessories, and it definitely keeps the figures safe and secure. But one thing that I noticed when I was trying to pry the accessories out of here without damaging them, I was poking them out from the inside here, and I put a few little holes and tears in this tray. So if you're wanting to keep it minty fresh, or if you have plans on trying to resell it eventually in the future, watch out for that. So if you weren't able to buy this online, and you're not going to San Diego Comic-Con to get one in person, you have to resort to the secondary market like eBay and pay scalper prices, make sure that it's got the Scotch tape. It had a band of Scotch tape right here and right about here on the bottom, in addition to being snapped closed. Otherwise, you have a set that's been opened. The shipping box this came in was pretty thin, cheap cardboard, and was just big enough to fit this in snugly from end to end. There was padding on each side of the box and around it, but on the ends of the box there was no padding. It was flush against the inside of the shipping box, and the back of mine is a little crunched up. So like I said, normally I don't go into the packaging very much, but this is like a selling point for the set, and it does a good job of protecting the figures and holding all their accessories when you're not using them. But I don't plan on displaying this. I don't think it's that great. I am going to keep it, however, in case I need to store the figures for some reason. It's just going in the closet. I don't plan on displaying this in my collection. Alright, so here are the turtles all posed up, and I'm pretty happy with this set. I do have a few major issues with it, though. But overall, I think that the set looks really, really great. The paint detail and the sculpting on these guys is all really, really well done, I think. It really puts me in mind of the old cartoon show that I grew up watching. Alright, here's the Leonardo figure, and basically the turtles are all exactly the same. The only real differences between them are the paint scheme for their bandanas and their belts. The Leonardo figure obviously has the sheath on his back for his two swords, and that's pretty tight. I would suggest warming those up with a hairdryer so you don't break those when you're trying to put the swords in their sheaths. And here's the Donatello figure. Unfortunately, he only comes with one bow staff, and I'm not real crazy about it. I wish that it was more straight. It's, you know, it's not warped from the packaging. It's just molded that way, so it's got little weird bends and curves in it. But as far as the figures go, they're all really cool. They have this paint shading on the back of their arms and legs, on the back of their head, and then you can really tell with the backs of their bandanas and their elbow pads and knee pads and stuff, along with the thick black lines. I think that really adds a lot of depth. Alright, here's the Michelangelo figure, and out of all the figures in this set, I think I like his accessories the most. Obviously, he's got this little twirling effect for his nunchucks, kind of similar to the Marvel Select Mighty Thor figure that came out a while back. And I think the real chain is a nice touch. I haven't tried it yet, but I think there's enough slack in the belt for you to store the nunchucks on each side of his belt buckle there. Alright, so here's the Raphael figure. Raph is my favorite out of all the turtles. It was the first figure that I pulled out of the box when I first got it the other day, and I immediately noticed that he's missing the bandana tie from the back of his head. So I got online, I contacted Neca, or tried to, via email a couple times. Then I got on ToyArk forums and asked around if anybody knew a customer service phone number where I could use to contact Neca. Someone on there suggested that I use Twitter because they're better about answering tweets, I guess, than they are emails and phone calls and stuff. So I opened up a Twitter account and tried to communicate with them there. They finally, yesterday afternoon or evening, they sent me an email. And, you know, if I was writing an email like this, probably the first thing I would say is, hey, sorry about your trouble, but I didn't get that from Neca. They say, hello. We're aware of the ongoing issues with your TMNT set. We are currently compiling the information and are working on a solution. Please allow us some time, and we will get back to you shortly with a resolution. So, you know, I'm not looking for them to stroke me off or anything, but I think the least they could have said was sorry. You know, I'm not looking for a whole new set. I don't really even want a whole new Raphael figure. I just want that bandana tie. This is the first big-ticket NECA item that I've ever bought. I've spent a lot of money on NECA figures, hundreds of dollars. I've got a lot of Predator figures, Aliens, Terminator stuff. I've got RoboCop and the Toys R Us exclusive DC figures like the Christopher Reeve Superman, Heath Ledger Joker. I've had a lot of quality control issues with a lot of their stuff, and I was really on the fence about buying this because it was so expensive. It was like $200, and you know, it's limited production run. I guess they're only doing like 5,000 pieces, and there's a big demand for this. So I'm worried that they might not be able to send me out a replacement because they've sold them all or something. I don't know. I will get back to you and let you know what happened if you're interested in an update. Alright, so since the turtles are all essentially the same figure, just with different paint schemes and slightly different belts, I'm just going to show you Leonardo's articulation to cover everybody's. They all have a double ball hinge neck that works pretty well. There's a joint here and a here, and you can make them look up a little bit. They can look down a little bit. Side to side is no problem, and they have a little bit of range of motion there for attitude. They have ball hinge shoulders that work really well back and forth like this, hindered a little bit by the shell, but they're really stiff when you try to pull them out like that. Michelangelo's arm completely came out of the socket at the shoulder there on the right side. I used a hairdryer to get it fully seated in the socket. They all have a bicep swivel that works pretty well, and they have a swivel and a hinge that's real stiff at the elbow. The wrists swivel, and they also have a hinge. And on every set of hands, besides the gripping hands, they have hinges that move like this. And then on the gripping hands for their weapons, the hinges go the opposite direction, so you can get better poses with the weapons. I think that's pretty cool. They all have, it's really hard to see, but they all have a diaphragm joint underneath the belt, or kind of hidden by the belt, and you can get a little bit of a twist out of that, not a whole lot. And Leonardo only pivots over to the one side. He doesn't turn to the left very easily. They have pretty good hip articulation, but it's a little problematic because it's so loose. It's hard to get them to stand up because their torsos are so heavy, especially. But you can get a nice wide stance out of them. They also have a swivel joint up here that's hidden pretty well, but this was stuck on every figure in the set. So definitely get a hairdryer before you try to move those around. And they have pretty good back and forth movement. This chest and abdomen part is made out of a soft, pliable plastic that doesn't hinder that range of motion at all. They have double jointed knees, and the top part is a little stiffer than the bottom part of that joint, but it still works pretty well. It's hindered a little bit by the knee pad. And then they all have ball socket ankles, so you can flex and point the toe a little bit, and then they have a little bit of an ankle rocker, and of course they swivel. So I've had a couple issues with this Michelangelo figure also. First is there's a dab of stray glue that's attaching this chest piece to his shoulder, and you know, this side is completely loose like all the other figures. That's how it's supposed to be, but this one is like attached to the shoulder, so whenever you move that joint around, it moves that. And I could get an X-Acto knife and cut that loose, but I don't want to damage the figure. And then even if I did that, there'd be, you know, a glob of paint and or a glob of glue and maybe some paint on his shoulder every time I moved it around, so that would look kind of ugly. Also, at first I thought this was part of the articulation, but it's just because Mikey's shoulder is so loose right there. You can see there's a big gap between his trap and his shoulder there. That's not supposed to be like that. It's just because the shoulder is not plugging into his torso the way it's supposed to. And I got a hair dryer and completely pulled the arm out and tried to put it back in the way it was supposed to be, and I just haven't been able to get it to work. So it's not the end of the world, but you know, it's kind of aggravating for an exclusive set that is so hard to get a hold of and costs so much. Alright, so these turtle figures come with lots of really great accessories. Each one is packed with a pair of gripping hands. They also come with one set of pointing hands like this. I like to use them with Leonardo. Also, you can hold a sai in them also, so you can use them with Raphael. They come with a pair of open palm hands like that, or karate chop hands. And then these are specifically for Raphael, so he can hold the sai with the blade coming out between his fingers like these. And then they also come with one pair of thumbs up hands. I've got the other one on Michelangelo now. They also come with this pizza box with a pizza inside, missing one slice. And this looks like it would be articulated, but it is not. So don't try to force it and break it. But I think that's really cool. It's this weird pizza. And anyways, that's really neat. There's a grappling hook, and it looks like about 9 or 10 inches worth of string attached to it. And this actually opens up. I don't know if you can see that or not. Actually opens up like that. That's about as far as it'll go, though. And these hooks are made of kind of rigid plastic, and they're real thin. So I wouldn't suggest trying to hang a figure from that. I think it'd probably be just for show. But there's that. There's a slice of pizza that's made of kind of a softer, flexible plastic, and actually has a hole in it, so you can plug it into the end of Raphael's sai. I think that's really, really cool. There's a pair of closed communicators that have really nice detail sculpted and painted on them. Looks just like I remember from the cartoon show. And then there's a pair of open communicators. I think those are really awesome. And they have the antenna sticking out. Those are both exactly the same. Also, Michelangelo comes with two pairs of nunchucks, but only one pair, only one handle here actually unplugs from the chain. So you have to really study it to figure out which one it is, because it's not very obvious. And then you can plug this part in to the end of that to get that twirling effect. And then this pivots like this, and it rotates. Alright, so here's Oroku Saki, the Shredder. Really love this figure. He's been a long time coming. I remember when I was a kid, the Playmates Shredder figure was always really disappointing. He looked terrible. He was always hunched over, kind of pre-posed. He was pretty scrawny and didn't look anything like he did in the cartoon series. And, you know, they never updated him either. Like, the entire time that I was into Ninja Turtles, they never made a new, better Shredder figure than that. So this is really cool. This is exactly what I think of when I think of Shredder from that cartoon. I think he looks great. The paint detail on him is pretty good. His articulation's pretty decent. And I really, really like that cloth cape a lot. Alright, here are the Foot Soldier figures, and I really like them a lot. I think they're menacing and ridiculous looking at the same time. They come with really great accessories. The articulation's pretty good on these guys. It's a shame that they're part of an exclusive box set that's expensive and so hard to get a hold of, because this would be really fun to army build. If you could just go to a retail store and pick up these guys for, you know, 20, 25 bucks each, I think it'd be really cool to army build them. And finally, here's the Krang figure. This was the figure out of the set that I was least looking forward to, and having it in hand really hasn't swayed me. You know, he's done pretty well. The paintwork is pretty good. I like how his arms are removable from his body, so you can plug them into the front of the robot chair or whatever. I think that's pretty clever. But you know, like, the legs have a little bit of articulation, but not enough to get the feet fully on the, you know, planted on the ground there. So that's a little disappointing. It looks kind of silly. Alright, so the Shredder figure is pretty well articulated. He can't really look up at all, unfortunately, but he can look down some, obviously side to side, and not a whole lot of tilt there. He's got the same ball hinge shoulders that the Turtles have, but it's real stiff, and these shoulder pads are made out of soft enough plastic that they don't get in the way of the articulation at all. He's got a bicep swivel that works really well, a double hinged elbow, and a swivel and a pivot at the wrist there. I don't think there's an ab joint in there, like an ab crunch joint. It doesn't seem like there is one. This is a plastic torso with like a softer rubber like coating on it. So I don't know why they did that, but I mean, it's fine. It looks fine. But like the Christopher Reeve Superman figure they did was real similar, but it actually has like an ab crunch joint like hidden underneath this shell. It's got a waist swivel that's real stiff. He's got hip joints just like the Turtles. You can get a really wide stance there. Then go back and forth really well. This his little butt cape here, or whatever, the tail of his tunic doesn't get in the way of the articulation at all. He can move pretty well. And just like the Turtles, this swivel hip joint up here is really well hidden, but it was really stiff when I first opened him up. Got double jointed knees that work really well. He's got a boot cuff swivel right there. And then his ankle articulation and the Foot Soldier's ankle articulation is a lot better than the Turtles. This side gets more range of motion for some reason. But works pretty well. You can flex and point it, ankle rocker, and a little swivel there. And then Shredder and the Foot Soldiers both have this toe hinge joint, and that's pretty stiff, so be careful with that. So the Foot Soldiers share a lot of the same parts as Shredder. They've got the same shoulders and biceps, and they're the same from the waist down. Their legs are all exactly the same, but Shredder has those shin guards glued on. It's hidden pretty well, but they do share some parts. Anyways, the Foot Soldier has really nice neck articulation. He can look side to side pretty well. He has good up movement and pretty decent down. And like I said, you can get a lot of range of motion out of that joint. That's pretty nice. The shoulders, just like everybody else in this set, really stiff when you try to pull them out to the side. That's about as far as I feel comfortable pulling on it. Up back and forth like this is just fine though. They've got a bicep swivel. This one's not, that's frozen. They've got double jointed elbows there, work pretty well. They have swivel and a hinge at the wrist. And nothing, no ab crunch or anything, but they do have a waist swivel. Alright, and just like Shredder, they have pretty good hip articulation. They can spread their legs apart pretty far. This shirt tail or whatever, their tunic, has a nice little slit there cut in to help with the articulation, and it's made out of really soft, pliable material also. Got the rotation here at the top of the hip, and they go back and forth pretty far. Then double jointed knees that work really well. They've also got a calf rotation there, a boot cuff swivel, and the ankle articulation is just like Shredder's, and they also have that toe hinge joint. Alright, so this Krang figure is pretty decent. He's got really nice sculpted and painted detail, and he's got ball socket tentacles here in front, and they actually pop out pretty easily, but it's a good thing because they're also meant to plug into the front of his robot legs here, and that they're not super tight, but tight enough, I guess, for you to pose them around and hold his accessories. And the top of this opens up really easily, and you can put Krang in here, and the way that this is designed, it covers up the sockets in the front of him, and I think that is really cool. I like that a lot. Unfortunately, the legs on this thing aren't that great. So the legs on his robot chair there just have swivel joints. They have a swivel joint up here, and they have a swivel joint here that works both ways, and then they have a swivel joint down here. And no matter how I pose him, I can't get all of these little feet to be like flush to the ground, or the shelf that I put them on or whatever. So I think this would have been better if they'd used ball socket joints here and here, because then you would have been able to rotate these around, however you wanted, and same with these. And I think it would have been able to put them in different poses, a little more dynamic looking, and would have been able to make him a little bit more sturdy. Alright, so the villains in this set come with a lot of really cool accessories too. The Foot Soldiers both come with a pair of closed fist hands. They both come with a pair of open palm or karate chopping hands. And they both come with a pair of open, like, gripping hands. And those all work really well. They're really easy to swap in and out. Shredder comes with a hand for each side that's posed kind of like this. Maybe it's like he's thrown a ninja star, a throwing star, or he's just posing or something. Shredder also comes with 2 grip hands and comes with 2 closed fist hands. The bad guys also come with 3 guns. There's this rifle that has like a suction cup thing on the end of it. I think it's really silly and goofy looking. I like that a lot. The paint detail on all these weapons is excellent. There's another rifle right here that looks really cool, and then that pistol has some red paint on it too. It looks excellent. I'm really happy with the paint detail on the weapons, especially. You don't see that a lot with Marvel Legends, for instance. Shredder comes with a really kick-ass sword with some nice paint detail on the hilt there. There's a communicator with a screen on it with a sticker of Krang's face. I think that's really badass. And you can actually put that in Krang's tentacle if you'd like. That fits in pretty well. This canister of ooze, and it has a little notch cut into one end of it, and you have to fiddle with it for a minute, but you can get Krang to hold this if you'd like. And it also comes with a little tripod. Alright, this is a pretty bizarre mashup, but just in case you're wondering how the turtle figures would look compared to other figures you might have in your collection, here's a DC Universe Classics Batman by Mattel. There's a Marvel Legends Pizza Spidey by Hasbro. There's the new Neca Ultimate Predator from the first movie. There's a Black Series Hasbro Boba Fett figure, and there's the new Cyclops figure from the Dark Phoenix 2-pack. That's on the Bucky Cap mold. Alright, here are the Foot Soldiers, Krang, and Shredder with the same figures here and back for size comparisons. So I think these work pretty good together if you wanted to do a little crossover adventure on your toy shelves, or take some photos with other characters. I think these would scale pretty well with them. Alright, so there you have it. There's my review of the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle box set by Neca. And even though I've had a lot of problems with these guys, I'm still really happy to have them. I'm just glad to have like classic renditions of the Turtles based on the cartoon series that I watched when I was a kid. That's pretty special to me. And these guys look amazing. The paint detail on them is excellent. They come with lots of really cool accessories, especially the Turtles. The interchangeable hands on all the different characters give you a lot of different options. I think that's really, really great. The painted and sculpted detail on these figures is excellent. I'm very happy as far as that goes. The only place where these guys really fall down is the articulation. And it's not the way that the articulation is designed. In theory, the articulation would work very well on these guys. I think it might have something to do with the quality of plastic that Neca uses. For instance, I collect a lot of Marvel Legends figures and Star Wars figures made by Hasbro, and it's very rare when I have a problem with joints that are stuck, or joints that come apart or that break. And with my Neca figures, it's very common. A lot of my Neca figures have problems like I've had with these guys, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully Neca steps up their game and fixes the issues with their quality control. So after shipping, this set cost me $212, which if you break it down per figure is really not that bad. It's a little over $25 per figure, which is about what you'd pay if you found them, if they were individually carded and you found them at Toys R Us, or you bought them on Big Bad Toy Store or something. That's about what you'd pay. So I'm not too fussed about that. I'm pretty happy with it. It's one-stop shopping, kind of. You get like a full set of Turtles, and you get 4 bad guys. I think that's pretty cool. I think that if you consider some of the import figures, I think like SH Figure Arts makes Turtles that are similar to this, but those are a lot more than $25 or $30 a piece. So as far as that goes, I'm pretty happy with the price I paid. I'd be happier if I didn't have all the quality control issues, of course. Overall, I think this set is pretty well worth your money, and cross your fingers that you don't have the problems that I've had. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Use a hairdryer to warm these figures up before you start posing them. So I guess that about does it. I hope that if you wanted one of these sets, I hope you're able to get one without too much trouble. They sold out really fast on the website. All 3 days that they were made available, they sold out within a minute or two. And they're being sold at San Diego Comic-Con, but that's only if you're there in person. I wouldn't pay $300 or $400 for these on eBay. Like, don't pay crazy scalper prices. If you're going to pay that much, you might as well go with the SH Figure Arts Turtles. They make a set that's real similar to these. It looks just like the cartoons, and they have crazy articulation, and probably come with just as many accessories as these guys do. Also, keep in mind that NECA may very well repaint these figures and reissue them next year at San Diego Comic-Con, and you could get that set, you know. So last year they did a set of these turtles and Shredder and 3-foot soldiers, and they were based on the old arcade game, and so they had that pixelated kind of paint job, and those were cool looking, but I'd be really pissed if I'd bought that set and then a year later they announced these, because I think these look much, much better. And you know, NECA says, oh, we can't do figures like that because of licensing and blah blah blah, and then they turn around and release figures like that. So keep in mind, they might turn around and reissue these guys at any time, maybe next year at Comic-Con, just like they did this set. So like I said, I'm really happy with these guys. The only other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures I could possibly foresee buying is maybe Bebop and Rocksteady to go with these guys, or Krang and the android body. I think that would be really cool. Really the only other version of the Ninja Turtles that I have any affinity towards is the original 1990 movie figures. I think that would be cool to have some more realistic styled Ninja Turtles. But other than that, this is like the ultimate turtle set in my opinion, and I'm really happy to have it. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and take care. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.